Good morning. Welcome to Caffeinate Your Career. Today's topic is going to be ways to love your career. I'm your host, the career coach with the most, Jason Hopper. With me today is Jim Warner and the sensational Scott Butnick. Guys, thanks for being on and welcome to Caffeinate Your Career.
Jason was first in his class in adjectives. Did you know that?
I love it. I love adjectives. I'm checking. We are live. I can hear me live, so that is working correctly, and I'm loving that. So this topic actually, I attribute to you, Scott, because you wanted to do something for Valentine's. Valentine's is coming up this Friday, and you're like, "What can we do for Valentine's?" And I'm like, "Well, how do you love your career?" And I think it's like a good topic just because like oftentimes you'll get into a job and or you'll take a job that you don't really like and then you feel like you get there and you're stuck, right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So I think like let's start with ways to love your career. First off, make sure that your passion and values are going to align with the job that you accept.
Right. Yeah.
Scott.
So, a lot of people, I think, the first thing they think about when they think about whether they love what they or loving their job, loving their career, love what they do, they think about money. And money's not unimportant. We know that, right? It's not unimportant. It's very important, but it shouldn't be the only consideration. Okay? Because you can find if you look at two jobs, work assignments. I'm trying to be as non-specific as I can. That where one you make more money than the other, but B has a better work environment, and you might find that you're happier in B than you are in A, where you're making money. Believe that's not to discount but money's good. It pays the bills. It allows us. I've always felt in a capitalist society, pardon the rhetoric, but money buys freedom, gives you choices.
Sure.
That's what money does. It gives you options. Okay. When you don't have money, you have to do, you don't have the money for something, then you have fewer choices. So I'm not discounting that at all, because in sharing this thought with people, candidates over time who have shared their feedback with me, so money's not, I didn't say money's not important to me. I said it's not the only factor in determining where I should work and how redeemed I should feel about my work. Okay. There's a lot of other factors. I'm sure we'll go into them, so I won't touch on them.
Let me ask, Scott, did you love being a recruiter?
I did. Yeah. I didn't love all the places. I didn't love most of the places I worked. I liked some more than others, an awful lot more. But I loved recruiting. Yeah. And I'll tell you, because I've had this discussion with recruiters, and I think it's fair. I'll let Jim can expound on it. What Jim did was, first of all, he owned his own business, and that made it a lot different. I accept. I know that because Jim and I have known each other 20 years or so. And so, when you own a business, you tend to look at it a little bit differently.
Sure.
I prided myself in my workplace on self-sufficiency, but when you own a business, it's not self-sufficient isn't good enough. You become self-reliant. You're in. I worked at Bank of America. I didn't run Bank of America. Sometimes I'm glad I didn't. But it's one of the places I worked and really enjoyed working there. But you find your place. I think to a great extent. I think this also, you control your own happiness, okay? And there's some things that I think we're going to talk about today that we can control that lead to a greater sense. I think I use the word redemption. Call it fulfillment. I think you have to be fulfilled. You'll do much better when you feel fulfilled because you go home feeling better about yourself each day.
Yeah. Jim.
Yeah. I'm going to relate it back to when I decided I was going to end my role as owner of my LLC. And when I made that decision, I made it because I decided I didn't like clients and I didn't like candidates. I didn't like either side of the business.
What led you to that? Because you
I
didn't start that way.
don't know. I was passionate about what I did. Absolutely passionate about what I did. But, clients can be flakes and candidates can be flakes.
Yeah.
And, I got tired of the excuses. But the one thing that kept me going, as long as it did, was at the end of every placement, we would have a speakerphone. And what we would do is we would ask the candidate what's new and exciting in the world. And they said, I'm going to start working for Johnson & Johnson, and my start date is March 1st. And we would ring the bell, we would clap, and let the dog bark. And I never got tired of that opportunity. It was just the best. So, but I knew it was time for me to go. So I sold my business to one of my 10-year employees. He's carrying the torch. He's loving it. He's continuing the business. And I'm off doing other things.
You're so busy. As somebody retired, I think you're the busiest man I know. I think it's like interesting. Like I was an on-site manager when I was in staffing, and they had moved me from one on-site to another on-site location. And my original on-site, the guy that was there, he was going on vacation, and they're like, Hopper, we need you to go to carrier, walk the floor, let the managers know that you're there. So I'm on the floor, I'm talking to one of the managers, and there's this dude standing like right off to the side. And finally the manager goes, do you need me? And he goes, no, I need him. And I'm like, crap, there's a problem. Mm-hmm. I'm like, hey, what's going on, man? Can I help you? And he goes, do you remember me? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't. Yeah. And he said, I missed an opportunity to interview with you. He said, but you called me back a second time and you told me, this is it. This is your last chance. I will never call you again. You have to show up to this interview. He said, you don't realize where I was in my life at the time. He said, I didn't have a job. I was about to be evicted from my house. My girlfriend was about to break up with me because I don't have a job and money. He said, my car was breaking down. You called and gave me a second chance. He said, since that time, he said, I've been hired on full-time with the company. Me and my girl got married. We're expecting a child here in like 4 months. He said, I've since got a new car. He said, I never knew what happened to you. He said, you gave me a second chance and you really changed my entire life. Mm-hmm. And he said, and you were just gone the next day because they didn't really announce, hey, Hopper's leaving and he's going to go to another location. Mm-hmm. He said, but I want you to know every night I pray for you and thank God for you and what you did. And at that point, I realized, holy shit, I can change lives. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like it's not because like I'm young. I'm like in my 20s, and when you're in your 20s, all you want to do is make bank. Yeah. And look how good I'm doing with bonuses. I got all this money, right? And I didn't realize that just being in staffing and what I do, I can change somebody's life. And once I realized that, I was like all in. Right? It wasn't so much about me anymore, so much as it was about me helping other people into positions where they had their dream job. That's why I love doing what I do now as a coach. I don't have the pressure and have to meet like, and you guys know the KPIs. That's right. Yeah. It's like, and I've been terminated before because I did not make the numbers I was supposed to be making in staffing. I don't have that problem here. All I do now is get people to that aha moment and get them into different positions.
I think I've had this conversation with both of you at separate times in history. The last few years of my experience as a recruiter, my 10 years as a recruiter, was in the mortgage business. I didn't make offers, okay? Because mortgage offers typically are reasonably complex. And what makes them complex is they're different. Offers are different, and you're allowed to do that. That's legitimate in the mortgage business. Person A gets a different offer from person B. Same company, same job.
Yeah.
Loan officers.
Yep.
But when I did, I made a lot of offers at Bank of America, which was early in my career. I made offers. I worked at Chase for 4 years. I made offers there, and I had that kind of thrill. We're talking about offering part-time hourly jobs, and nobody goes into it. A recruiter shouldn't go into their work. You should feel good about who you're representing, feel good about your partners, but you shouldn't have your nose up in the air. And nobody that I worked with had that approach, but you could tell by the shrieks, by the unbridled joy of a candidate who just got an offer that from a pretty significant employer, right? I had the distinction of working for that it was very gratifying to that person, and you had the feeling you were changing lives. So I can relate to that, Jason. Yeah.
So other ways to love your career is make sure that you're focused on growth. There should almost always be like a continuous learning. And I think so it's one thing that I do is, and I've just trained the algorithm on my phone on Chrome. It just sends me articles about job search and what to expect and how a resume should be looking in 2025 and like that sort of thing. But I think like so long as you're able to learn and do new things, it keeps things interesting and you continue to enjoy the position.
Well, as a side note, I must say, my mother, who is 97 years old, takes 8 classes a semester online. So it's never too late to learn.
For sure. I agree.
That makes her a lot smarter than me. I don't know about you. I'd like to meet her. I think I'd be intimidated. When you talk about focus on growth, I think you're right. I agree 100. If it's mathematically possible, 102%. But I think to focus on growth in your career, and I think we touched on this briefly last week, you have to understand what you do. Really understand what you do. Understand how you measure up against your objectives.
Yes.
Understand let's assume we're all good at our jobs. Understand what makes you good. I remember some advice I got many, many years ago. Take your job seriously, not yourself. Okay. But what does that translate to? It translates to understanding your work. How do you understand your work? I always understand my work. I had to be, this dawned on me because I was forced to think about it. That's why I think when companies do, and if companies don't do it, a person should still do it, a self-review. Okay? Yeah. But the best way to understand your work is to talk to your boss about it. Talk to your boss. Even if it's outside, it doesn't have to be every month. Your boss doesn't want to review you every month because they have to have too many other things to do. But even if it's once every 6 months and there's no 6-month review plan, go in, talk to your boss. I wanted to spend a couple of minutes. I'd like your feedback on maybe you started by specifics. Maybe you keep it more open-ended. The thing you have to be prepared for, one of my favorite little maxims is, don't ask the question if you're afraid of what the answer might be. Right. Okay? But so in other words, be prepared. Yeah. Okay? Because if your boss is investing in your career, they should have constructive feedback, meaningful feedback, and they should be able to articulate some wet wells as well. But all this helps you understand your job better. Then you can focus. That leads to a focus on growth because you know what you're doing, what your limitations are, and where's the stretch. What's the next step on the ladder? I don't think enough people out there. I've talked to people that don't really understand what they do. People who articulate accomplishments on their resume as opposed to I did this, I did that, they understand their job. They understand what they do.
Yeah. So, well, I think feedback is a gift.
I agree. Sure. So it's the only way to get better.
I think so. And you brought up a good point, Scott, too, in regards to resumes. Like, employers today don't want like a laundry list of things that you did. No, they want to know how you did it. And what was the result? What did you accomplish? What was the Just real quick, I see in the chat there, Jody Lance and Yolanda Chin. Good morning to both of y'all and everybody what is watching live. We do have 7 people watching live. If you have any questions, put them in the chat, and I will try to monitor that. Otherwise, to stay engaged and loving your career is to build positive relationships. I think it doesn't matter what job it is, you've got to be able to get along and I'm going to say gravitate towards those people that are going to be positive and lift you up.
Just build a team, basically. What you're saying.
Yeah.
And you can build a team and not be a manager. I think that's something else that's lost on a lot of people.
Right.
You can be a team builder and not manage a team.
Well, it just becomes like you can be a leader. You don't have to have the title of supervisor, manager,
right.
But you lead by example.
Yep.
You lead by attitude. And if you have a positive attitude, I think that it can be infectious and be something that the team overall is going to enjoy.
And when people, it's funny, I'm always amused by this. People talk about networking. Okay, so you had to network, and you're a great networker. I know you're a great networker. I've known other. I think I'm an okay networker. Okay, I think you're a better networker than I am, and I've known recruiters who do a better job of networking than I do. But when people have asked me, what do you think is the key to networking? Yeah, getting in front of people, using LinkedIn, those are necessary. But the key to being effective as a networker is to leave people better for the interaction you had. Then people are willing to come forward for you.
Yeah,
okay.
I agree.
And then that may sound like an oversimplification, but it's really, and if you say to me, okay, Scott, put your money where your mouth is. Do you think you left everybody better for the interaction? No, I wasn't 100% to goal, but what is it? I think it was Obama used to say, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. I think a lot of people have said that, but I heard him say that. So in other words, strive for that in your interactions. You won't always hit it, and you'll come across somebody that you don't, that's an oil and water thing. I have. We all have, right?
Sure.
But if the majority of the people feel good about what you do, it's amazing what happens when the rubber meets the road in networking, when you need that person, because they're much more likely to come forward for you.
Yeah.
Okay. So
You're hitting the mark today, Butnick. I'm feeling good about Scott's interaction on the podcast.
I think I was just told you're talking too much.
I think like networking gets a bad rap oftentimes, but really all it is just talking to people.
Yeah.
And I like to add offering to help.
Yeah.
Because if you're offering to help somebody, they're going to be more than likely to want to help you.
Yeah.
And they're probably not going to have a lot of things for you to do, but so long as you at least have made that offer, you're setting yourself up down the line for success in building that relationship. Because all relationships, no matter how they are, they're always going to start out and be built on trust.
Yeah.
Right.
Because,
so you date somebody, until you get married.
Mm-hmm.
But there's that dating piece, which is the dance, ensuring that there is something to tie together.
I think so. And I think job search is often like dating.
Yeah, I do too.
No doubt about it.
And networking is like dating.
Mm-hmm.
You're mature. Yeah. You're developing that relationship like a date.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you finally get the referral, and that's a marriage.
Yeah. Right. By the way, Jim,
and then there's the dowry, and that's payday.
I did a presentation last week at the workforce in Plano, and somebody asked the question like what they're doing wrong or things that they could do wrong, and I used your shoe story.
Oh yeah, good.
Right.
Yes.
And I was like, it's just a good story and a way to stand out. And I told this person, I'm like, you've got to figure out a way to stand out.
That's right.
Better.
That's right.
Right? Because if that's who gets remembered,
Mm-hmm.
is the people that actually stand out.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. This is a big one. Is ways to continue to love your career is celebrate the wins.
Mm-hmm.
I think oftentimes we don't recognize the wins, but it's important to make sure that no matter how big or small it is, that we do celebrate in some way the win. You
Oh,
just
yeah.
talk about like,
Oh, yeah.
hey, we rang the bell, the
Oh,
dog barked,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
we got to things, but like unless you are moving through the process and making sure that you are being and you are letting everybody know like this good thing happened,
Mhm.
you overall become better and feel better about the work itself.
Well, ultimately for the recruiter, it's these wins, and they don't happen that often. I mean, there are times where it's lull and then there's nothing going on, and clients aren't calling, and candidates aren't barking. So, um, uh, being a recruiter is an interesting animal.
I always chalk staffing up to happy hour.
Yeah.
Right? Because this is in a nutshell how staffing works, at least for me. I lost a client today. I just need to go get a drink. Let's go get a drink. Or it goes the opposite way. I made 2 placements today. Let's go out and celebrate and get a drink. It's one or the other. And we're always at the bar drinking.
But imagine this. I mean, the environment for the average recruiter is they're in a cubicle, they have a telephone, and they may have some notes, and they're on the phone all day long until that point where there's something happens, a win, and everybody celebrates.
Yeah,
it's always a good thing. But we need good candidates, and we need prepared candidates, and you'd be surprised how many of those get kicked to the curb, never get on that speakerphone. Never get that job.
Well, that's why it's important to stand out, to be visible, to make sure that you are in love with the position you're going to be working for.
Yeah.
Right. I think like when we get down to it, like life is way too short to be in a job that you don't like.
Right.
Right. You're at the job 8 hours a day. You should kind of like it and like the people that you work with. It's funny because I did it's probably a year or 2 ago, and we did an episode on toxic work environments and how do you know if you're in a toxic work environment. And as I started doing the research for the actual episode of the live stream, I was like, I think I've been in a toxic work environment my entire career. I just didn't realize it. I just thought this is how work is.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember because I accepted a job at the state. Didn't think I wanted it. But my wife said, you don't have another offer and you're burnt out on staffing. You don't realize you're burnt out on staffing, but I see you come home every day and you're sad and you're grumpy and you're tired. And she's like, you don't understand it. You're burnt out and you take this job. And if you don't like it, go back to staffing in 3 months. And I worked for the state for 7 years as a job coach.
But we highly recommend that you keep that job while looking for the next job.
For sure. I unless it is really a bad and potentially harmful situation where you could physically get injured because of staff or negligence. Yeah, you're going to want to keep your job until you get something else.
Or if something, I think we're going to talk about this a little bit, but if something's so toxic that it starts to impact your life away from work, then and I know you did a podcast on when is the time to leave, when is the time to look.
Yeah.
So I don't want to get off on a tangent, but when you talk about the effect of a toxic work environment, and I've been in one, I can remember one really, and I also took one that was through not the work. It wasn't the issue the workplace had, but I was struggling a little bit to get my arms around. This was years ago. Get my arms around the job, and I said to myself, "You have to learn to like this." Mm-hmm. And I actually did. And I reflect fondly on the years I worked at that company. Now, it took a little bit of time, but that was on me. Where accountability in the workplace is another whole podcast topic. So we probably shouldn't get. But at the end of the day. And I know we've all talked about this at separate times. You own your career. You own the results of your career. Don't blame the mean boss. Don't blame, your spouse. Don't blame your mother or father. You own your career.
And one thing I want to note here, and we told it to all of our candidates, and what that is, you get to that place where you finally get that offer, which you believe is going to be a better work environment, higher paying, whatever it is. Don't accept the counteroffer by your existing employer. Because the first thing they're going to do is celebrate and then get on the phone with another recruiter saying, I got a problem. And then you're gone. Or if you have ever anticipated a promotion, once you tell them that you're leaving, you're not getting that promotion. So,
well, there's a problem to begin with. That's why you're looking for some other job.
Right.
And again, for the topic, like we want to love your career and what you do, if for whatever reason it's not working, right? I mean, just like any kind of relationship. I can't remember, as a comedian that once said, it's called a breakup because it's broke. Right? And sometimes it is just time for you to leave. Like I can't, that's how I ended up here at JFS. I loved what I did as a job coach and working for the state, but we had some change in management. It was not working out for me, and it was just time for me to leave.
yeah.
And it worked out really well.
But we, as recruiters, want you to stay 91 days because we don't get paid till 90. So if you leave on the 91st day, we get to keep.
If we don't have to replace you for free. Yeah, I've been there. Especially like, high volume and turnover, like call center or warehouse, right? Right. All right. This is a good one too, as far as loving your career is make sure that you're embracing a work-life balance. That's something that has come up a lot, like in the past few years, where we don't need to just be working and or on call or available 24/7. Right?
Yeah.
I was terrible at this when I first started because I started when the pandemic started here. And I worked a day and a half and we shut down. And so now I'm at home and, trying to figure out like what to do. But as far as like work-life balance goes, because my home office is actually in the dining room. And so I would roll through the dining room on my way to the kitchen to get some water and be like, let me check my email real quick. And now I'm answering emails. It's like 10:30 at night. I'm like, why? Since now we're like back in the office or whatever, like I don't take my laptop home with me unless I'm working from home. I work from home Fridays, but like even Friday, 5:00 ish, right? I shut the computer down and I don't turn it back on until Monday morning when I walk in here the door.
I took an assignment earlier in my career near where I live because it seemed very attractive to work close to where I live. And so, it was in retail banking. And I got into the habit, if I did have a day off, a Saturday, sometimes during the middle of the week, if I worked on a Saturday, I could take it. But I'll just swing by for 15 minutes. See, 15 minutes became 2 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's very difficult to extract oneself once you're in the goo.
But I want to make a note here, and that is when it comes to interviewing, there's a question that you're asked from time to time, and that is, what do you do in your spare time? And, if you say you read industry-specific books, you think about what your day is going to be like, for the next 16 days, planning it all out, and being a complete bore, you're not going to get hired. They want to know that you have a work-life balance. They want to hear that, you support a charity. You hang with your friends on the tennis court. You do things that are away from business because that's the kind of person that most employers want to hire now.
Well, and it in the answers that exactly the kinds of answers that you said candidates give, because I've heard them too. But in those answers are little, we'll call micro details, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
That like, I play tennis or I play racquetball, Okay, I make a side note, competitive.
Mhm.
Everybody wants competitive people, right? Because competitive people are
Yeah.
passionate,
Yeah.
and everybody wants passion.
Yeah.
I do some work, I do some volunteer work.
Yeah.
Oh, so I make a note,
Yeah.
leadership,
Yeah.
because everybody wants leadership, right? And so in those details, we learn more about candidates. And the hiring managers, I would say this to those of you watching, the hiring managers are interested in those kinds of people.
I think so, 100%, because people are going to do business with and hire people they like.
Yes.
And I think, too, it's a good idea to put some of that personal stuff into your headline on LinkedIn, right? Because the headline on your LinkedIn is so important because it's the only, besides your smiling face, the headline is the only other thing that they see before they click onto you, like when they're doing a search, that's all they see. And if they see on there, like mine, the personal stuff I have on my headline, I just changed it in January, and I think it's a good idea to change your headline or something in it once every 6 months. But what mine reads right now is home brewer, because I brew beer with my friends, and it says Pogo enthusiast, right? Because when I walk, and I walk anywhere from 5 to 7 miles a day, and I'm usually playing Pokemon Go when I'm walking, right? So if you understand what Pogo enthusiast means, you're like, he plays Pokemon Go. I play Pokemon. And we have that connection before we even get to the part where they pick up the phone and call you on the phone.
Did you know there are telephone poles all over Dallas, Fort Worth with imprints of Jason's face? Where he's walking. I'm looking at his phone.
That's funny.
That is funny. Here's another reason, another way you can stay engaged and love your career is reframe your mindset. I think mindset is everything. And if you don't understand, Scott, you said a minute ago, what your role is, it's hard to understand and change your mindset.
Agreed.
I think that if you can focus on the things that are positive within your job, that you like, you will probably enjoy the career a lot more.
And something
going to work.
I think was indicated in some notes I saw, and it's something somebody suggested to me also. It's good advice many years ago. Keep she called it a feel-good file. If you're getting recognition and you're getting emails, save that stuff. We used to print them. Now we don't print so much anymore. That's probably for the good. But save that stuff. And the same person that gave me the advice said, someday, yes, you're going to have the kind of day where you're going to go back and remind yourself that you add value. At some point in history, you added value. And that may seem, if you said to me, I don't know, that's a little trivial, I wouldn't blame you. I wouldn't argue that. But I will tell you that keeping a feel-good file, I don't know, 5-6 times over the course of my career, I went to it because, I just needed a little positive reinforcement from within that at some point in time, I've added value for candidates.
But that's not the only reason, Scott, that one keeps those feel-good documents in a file. And that is that, you can talk about yourself until you're blue in the face, but if they hear other people talking about you, it validates what they see on your resume and their conversation with you. So, coming to an interview with maybe 3 or 4 of those,
you can't lose.
You can't lose.
You can't lose.
I mean,
I don't know how much you'll win, but you cannot lose.
That's right.
It's why the recommendations on LinkedIn are so important.
Yeah.
And I actually don't have any yet for 2025, but once I help a client get into a position, and if we have had a relationship with that where I have worked on coaching them for, we're going to say anywhere from 4 to 6 months, and they should have a job in that time, I will ask for a recommendation. Sometimes clients will do it, sometimes they won't, but I always ask.
You have to.
By the way, if you're out there and you want to give me a recommendation on LinkedIn, feel free to do so.
If you need some coaching on how to spell mediocre, just ask me.
Scott Butnick. Now, we're not doing depreciation things today, Butnick. But you know what? And here's something. You said keeping that feel-good file is somewhat trivial. I think it is paramount.
I happen to think so too.
Yeah.
But I've had people kind of scratch their head when I've suggested.
No, I think I do the same, right? Like I have an email file, or actually I also have a Word doc. But like if I get kudos, and I did like I was talking about how to. I was doing a presentation and I was talking about how to get emails from people in the organization, because once you figure out the first part of the email, you know everybody's email, right? So my email is jhopper@jfsdallas.org, but that also means you have our CEO's email. You can email Kathy Barker because it's C Barker, right? And I was doing a presentation. I said, okay. I said, so if y'all want to email Kathy, you can. I said, don't email Kathy. She's busy. Unless you want to email her about how great a job I'm doing in this presentation.
Yep.
And one person did. And then Kathy forwarded it to me, and she responded and copied me on and said, yes, we love Jason and blah, blah. That's something you're going to keep.
Now, what sort of discount do you provide for that recommendation?
You get a nice smile and a handshake.
Listen, even with the discount, you couldn't afford his services anyway. Not what he charges.
Oh, you two. I wonder if I've made a mistake having both of y'all on at the same time. Y'all are the best, by the way. I don't know what we're doing next month. I got to come up with a guest. I was thinking of that this morning, so normally we'd have Scott on, and then we'd have Jim on, and I've got both of y'all this month. What are you doing in March, guys? Because
in the realm of small wins, because I know I did. Sometimes you get so hung up in the day-to-day nitty-gritty that you don't celebrate small wins because you don't know what small wins are. You don't know. In other words, I think a lot of us have this concern: am I feeling good about something that isn't that meaningful? Okay, but if you have, I know we had in many of the recruiting roles, and we laugh about this. And Jim would track these for his people. You and I were the ones being tracked. The number of calls you make. If I hit the number of calls I make, okay, I didn't go out and get a filet mignon, but I walked out thinking, damn it, I hit my goal today.
That's
I did, and it depends whether it's a shop with 10 employees or a place to work with a couple 100,000 employees. I know Bank of America used to say, I learned a lot about how to approach people, how to get people to feel engaged at Bank of America. I credit that. And one of the things on the review form, it says, don't feel underappreciated because you got meets expectations, because our expectations are high. Okay. And that's where I began to realize, okay, if I just hit some of the small things, these aren't, now everything has to be in context. Again, so I made the number of calls that day, I hit my call number, or I talked to the number of people that I wanted to talk to that day, even if it took fewer calls, because ultimately it's about how many people, we all know this, how many people you talk to.
Right.
I didn't go out and say, okay, what color is my Aston Martin going to be? But I went out and I said, you know what, Scott? You made your contribution today.
It's comes down to it's a good day.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
Right? Yeah. I have a sign in my office that says it's a good day to have a good day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that, and again, with mindset and framing and reframing, it will help you enjoy what it is that you do in your career level.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So, okay. So, guys, we are about at time.
Unbelievable.
I know it went very fast. Today's fun question for the day. What is your favorite sandwich? Scott?
I wish you'd give us some lead time on these.
That's why I do it.
I think if I think of, I'll think of it in real terms. If somebody says, hey, what do you want? We're going to grab lunch. Jersey Mike's Chipotle steak and Chipotle sub or something like that. Yeah.
That's good.
It's got no commercial, no endorsement, but it's got a distinct flavor to me. Yeah.
Jim?
Question again?
What's your favorite sandwich?
I would say a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. sandwich with the crunchy peanut butter.
Okay.
I love that.
Are you 5?
Am I 5? Am I 5?
Are you a
I
child?
think I'm regressive. My wife's talking about depends now.
You know, I'm not even.
I was going to say, it gets worse. He told me before the show he's going to ask you what your IQ is.
It's like when my son, he's 13 now, and he eats like everything. But like there was a time he would that's all he ate was PB and J, right?
Yeah.
And I haven't had a PB and J in 20 years.
Think about it.
Imagine.
Spread that chunky peanut butter, add that strawberry jam, cut it in half, get a couple Doritos. You're home free.
Oh, you need Doritos so they have that crunch, right? I'm pescatarian. I only eat seafood, so my sandwich is either gonna have to be tuna fish.
Okay.
But we trick it up.
A good tuna salad sandwich is
Yeah,
very good.
man. It's the best. So, okay, so that's Caffeinate Your Career for this week. Next week, we will be talking about, you guys will be back.
Yep.
And do you remember what the topic is?
No idea.
I don't remember either.
But we'll be there for you.
It'll be good. It'll be really good, though. I know the following
likely we'll fill another 45 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I know the following week we're going to talk about the 5 P's of job search. That I know, but I don't remember what next week we're talking about. But it will be amazing. Tune in next week. Jim will be here. Scott will be here, and we'll have a great episode.
I think I should wear a different shirt.
I think you should wear that same shirt. That should be like your signature, like a superhero. Jim has got this loud shirt on.
Wow.
And with any luck, Jim will come and show us the instructions on how he runs his washing machine.
All right. We'll see you all next week. Thanks.
All right.
Bye, guys.